The Equalizer 3. My biggest criticism of the second film was it felt too disjointed and too stretched out and a bit all over the place, including the opening scene, which had nothing to do with the whole rest of the film. The Equalizer 3 is thankfully a lot more contained, and from the second it opens, you're involved in the main story and it never lets go. It's set in Italy, in Sicily. Our man Robert goes over there to kill some mafia guys in a farm. That sets off a big chain of events. He ends up in a village in Sicily. One thing leads to another and he begins embedding his life there, gets involved in a bigger story that involves more members of the mafia and hatches a plan to take down the local mafia by himself. It's pretty crazy, but the premise is really good. It's a really well-contained story. He gets to know the people around him, and it also has a few little inroads to the other films, and it's really clever in how it handles it, and it leaves it till the last minute to kind of tell you what's fully been going on, including why he was there in the first place, which is a brilliant through line. I'm not going to spoil any of it for you because I want you to go away and watch this. If you've enjoyed this series and you've gone and watched the first one, get to the third one, because the third one, even though the second one is perfectly serviceable, I think the third one here is the strongest out of maybe the three. The first one was really good. Like, I loved the villain in the first one. I think in this one, the main villain, who eventually comes to fruition, he's good, but I didn't fully buy his character. I thought it was a little bit overblown in places. However, the set pieces that come with it and the tone of the film, it's a lot more enjoyable than the second outing. I think the inclusion of Dakota Fanning here is kind of interesting. It's great to see her in a film. Haven't seen her in a film in years. She's so grown up now. Her character and Robert's character work really well together when they eventually come together. From the opening scene, the gore is apparent. There's a guy with an axe through his face within the first 3 minutes, and some even crazier shit happens in the opening scene, and it's pretty violent. And it's like, I think Equalizer 3 out of the three of them is definitely the one that delivers the most violence. If you like that kind of stuff, this is the film for you. If you don't like that kind of stuff and you're a bit squeamish, or you find that kind of stuff like, maybe not the film for you. I really enjoyed it. It was a bit bloody, a bit ridiculous, but I enjoy these films for that side of it. It's quite serious in some respects, but then it's quite funny actually in the way that they deal with certain things. Denzel Washington again is great here. I think he broods really well. Not quite as well as the first. The first really set a precedent with him and the Russian mafia guy. That was one of the best standoffs I've seen against two characters for a long time. In this film, however, there is a younger mafioso guy who is basically being very loud and proud, and Denzel Washington eventually meets this guy, and there is a scene in a restaurant, and this is the standout scene of the film for me. It bubbles and bubbles away just like the first one did. You know, it's like, oh, the tension is set and the scene is set, and these mafia guys are like kicking the shit out of shop owners and stuff like that, and you see that their comeuppance is coming. And then there's this scene in a restaurant, and it's just amazing. It's one of those films that you're like, yes, like, get him. Obviously, the mafia aspect of the film is a little Hollywoodized, a bit ridiculous, but it's really entertaining. These mafia guys are really overreaching their bounds and just taking no prisoners and do not give a shit about anyone else but themselves. It makes it really, like, great and satisfying when they get their comeuppance, because this is the Equalizer. You know it's coming. They're getting their comeuppance whether they like it or not. Even though you know that's coming, it's a very entertaining film. It's got little stories within it about different people. However, in this case, it didn't feel like the Equalizer 2 where he was helping random people and they had literally nothing to do with the film. This film really underpins this whole feeling of community and like small communities coming together and how they're affected by each other's circumstances. I think that's a really amazing message to send, and you feel it really strongly in this film. It also says a lot about family and obviously, you know, the same old moral code of just being a good person. And so I think the message here is a lot clearer than in the second and gets back on track for what the first kind of laid the groundwork for. There are a lot of realistic reactions to issues. A shop owner is being beat up by a bunch of mafia guys, and Denzel Washington is in a position where he really can't retaliate. It's like you feel his need and want to help, but his inability to do so at the time. It's really there and you can feel it, and I love it when films like get those feelings across clearly and realistically as well. That's the key thing here. So yeah, I had a really good time with this one. I like all the way through it. I found myself smiling and grimacing at the gore and enjoying the interplay between Dakota Fanning and Denzel Washington. I thought that was really cool. And the way that story wraps up between the two of them is just, it calls back to Equalizer 1 and 2. And then the very, very end, which I won't spoil for you, is just this cherry on the top of the cake. And you're just like, that is a perfect ending to this trilogy. I really enjoyed these films. They're just a good time, especially if you're into action, into a bit of drama, and you like a bit of gore. It's just left the cinema. Once it comes to streaming and to digital, go and watch it. I would highly recommend it. So yeah, that's the end of the Equalizer series review. Thanks once again to our sponsor, Carlisle Soap Co. Use the link below to get 15% off any of their soaps. I look forward to reviewing many more films to come. We're keeping going with this. It took a while to get this series together and to find the time to do more reviews, but I'm going to continue to do more, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye.